Betta fish are not only colorful, with legends circulating around them, but some rumors quietly undermine their lives. That a fish should live in a small vase, or that building a foam nest necessarily means it's happy. In this video, we share 5 common misconceptions. If you want your betta to live a better life, this information is for you. Number 5. Is the filter unnecessary? Betta fish live in polluted water. You may have heard this sentence somewhere before. Most of the time, when you see bettas living in stagnant and turbid waters in pet shop windows, this statement appears to be true. But this is an incomplete point of view, even though it is not directly wrong. Because those brown backwaters you see in nature is not as simple as it seems. Yes, the color in those waters is intense. There is turbidity, but that color comes from the tannins of dead leaves, natural humus, and the presence of living plants. So this water is not chemically unbalanced and bad. On the contrary, it is constantly kept in balance by nature's own filtration systems. Betta fish live in nature in this natural balance. In other words, water that looks dirty is actually a habitat that strengthens their immunity and contains plenty of oxygen and minerals. In home aquariums, these natural processes are absent. Feed residues, feces, dissolved substances accumulate in the water. Although invisible to the eye, it quickly creates a toxic environment. Over time, compounds such as ammonia, nitrites, and nitrates will discolor your betta, reduce its appetite, and lower its immunity. This is where the filter not only clarifies the water, acts as a silent watchdog, protecting its health. A low-flow, gentle filter not only maintains biological balance, but also removes invisible enemies from the water. Remember, the filter is not just for the aquarium, it cleanses his inner world too. Number 4. Foam nest equals happy betta? When you saw a nest of bubbles, did you think your betta was happy and healthy? Like many people, you may have taken the little bubbles as an expression of affection or a sign of peace, but the reality is a little more complicated. Building a foam nest is an instinctive behavior that is natural to betta fish. This behavior indicates that they are biologically ready to mate and establish territories. It does not necessarily mean that they are in good conditions. In fact, it is possible to see bettas making foam nests even in bad conditions. You may have seen bettas making foam nests even in tiny plastic containers in pet shops, but this does not mean that the container is a healthy habitat. It just means that natural instincts are still working, regardless of the conditions. Like a flower blooming in the dark. Life will somehow find its way, but that doesn't mean it's getting the light it needs. Sure, it's nice to see a foam nest, but seeing it as a sign of happiness can cause us to overlook other shortcomings. Is the water temperature appropriate? Is the filtration balanced? Does it have enough space? Questions like these may be lurking quietly behind the bubbles. Remember, the foam nest is not just there, with the accompanying conditions. Number 3. Are air stones necessary? Many people believe that an air stone equipment should be added to the aquarium for betta fish, because we think that seeing bubbles means that the water is healthier. However, this is not always the case. Betta fish, unlike most fish, have a special structure called the labyrinth organ. Thanks to this organ, they can go directly to the surface of the water and breathe atmospheric air. So even when there is insufficient dissolved oxygen in the water, they have an alternative to breathe. If the aquarium has a working filter, the water is already moving and oxygenated enough. In this case, an air stone is not only unnecessary, but also dysfunctional. Because bettas live in still, calm waters, the constant bubbles and vibrations created by air stones tiring their graceful fins, disturbing the tranquility of the water and upsetting their inner balance. And these visually beautiful bubbles are far from their natural habitat. In nature, betta fish are found in the backwaters of Thailand and Cambodia. They live by gliding silently. So too much movement creates a feeling of uncertainty for them, not confidence. Sometimes, instead of putting things in the aquarium, you need to understand what's out there. Every piece of equipment can be harmful as well as useful. Number 2. Do pet shop employees always know? When you step into a pet shop, the first thing that catches your eye is the colorful aquariums. And often, the first person you meet is your source of information. If you are going to set up an aquarium or adopt a new betta, you ask those employees first, what should I do? How should I look after it? But it is important to remember that the staff of a pet shop do not always have the most accurate answers to these questions. Many are familiar with basic equipment and are involved in sales and maintenance procedures. But when it comes to a fish with special needs like Betta, it is not only their responsibility to get the right information, but also yours. Sometimes advice given in good faith, example, a comment like, "This small container is enough," or "If it makes foam, it's happy," can lead to big mistakes. Because behind this advice, there is often repeated but unquestioned information. And unfortunately, these repetitions are perceived as facts over time. We cannot say that all pet shop employees mislead, but those who have patiently learned the subtleties of this work are unfortunately in the minority. And it is not disrespectful to question what they say. It is a necessity for the quality of life of the creature you have. Research, read different sources, benefit from the experiences of experienced aquarists, and most importantly, filter every piece of advice you listen to.
Number 1. Betta fish care is cheap.
Walk into a pet shop and you see a colorful betta fish in a small container. The price on the label is often surprisingly low, and at that moment, the thought arises in your heart. If I can have such a beautiful creature for such a low price, it can't be that expensive to maintain. But that's not really the case. Because the value of a living creature cannot be measured only by the number on the label. The conditions required to have a betta fish are much more than meets the eye. An appropriately sized aquarium, a heater to maintain a constant temperature, a filter to clean the water, water regulators to neutralize harmful substances, and test kits for regular checking of all this. The startup costs add up faster than you think. But it's not just material. Time and attention are as important as equipment in this equation, because betta fish are a friend that needs to be taken care of and observed every day. Small signs, such as a sudden change in water temperature, loss of appetite, discoloration, can only be recognized with a careful eye, and this observation is the greatest asset that can be the answer to the needs he silently expresses.
Bonus. Should betta fish live alone?
Number 6. Should betta fish live alone? Many people have heard that betta fish are meant to live alone, so much so that this idea is almost taken for granted as their destiny. But the truth is more delicate than that. Yes, male bettas fight with each other, but that doesn't mean they should always be left alone. In the right conditions, especially with carefully selected tank mates, can live peacefully in the same aquarium. Small, fast fish or surface dwellers, most of the time the betta don't even notice. The secret here won't disturb their peace, is to choose species that won't bite their fins. While wrong choices bring fights and stress, the right choices color the betta's world. Remember, loneliness is not their fate, are our choices. Understanding a betta fish correctly, it starts with really taking care of him. Listen to facts, not myths, because sometimes a little information can change a lifetime. Which of these myths have you heard before? Write in the comments, and together we will uncover more legends,